Ever wondered what Amish people do for fun without television, internet, or modern entertainment? While outsiders assume their lives consist only of work and worship, Amish communities enjoy 10 surprising hobbies that contradict stereotypes about their simple living. These unexpected leisure activities reveal creativity, competition, and pleasure existing within strict religious boundaries, challenging assumptions about joy requiring modern technology or worldly entertainment. Competitive quilting and needlework. Creating elaborate quilts represents serious competitive hobby among Amish women, with county fairs and community exhibitions showcasing intricate geometric patterns requiring hundreds of hours. Why quilting seems surprising, as hobby connects to outsiders viewing it as mere practical necessity rather than creative artistic expression and social competition. The competitive element emerges through unspoken rivalry about who creates finest stitching and most complex patterns with an acceptable plain palette. How quilting becomes hobby involves women gathering for quilting bees, where they work together while socializing, and individuals working alone during evening hours. Teaching daughters quilting skills starts around age 5 with simple stitching, progressing to complex piecing by teenage years. Modern quilting uses machines, while their hand quilting requires extraordinary patience, creating tiny stitches with entire quilts containing millions of individual stitches. The social aspect proves as important as creative output, with quilting bees providing acceptable female gathering where conversation flows while hands stay productively busy. Vegetable gardening competitions. Growing massive vegetables and unusual varieties becomes competitive hobby among Amish men, with informal competitions about who grows largest pumpkin or most productive tomato plant. Why gardening competitions seem unexpected connects to viewing gardening as purely practical food production rather than recreational pursuit. The competitive spirit shows through casual conversations comparing yields and sizes, with men taking pride in gardening achievements despite humility principles. How this becomes hobby involves experimenting with heirloom varieties and growing techniques beyond family food needs. Teaching sons gardening excellence begins with basic food growing but advances to understanding soil science and cultivation techniques producing superior results. Modern competitive gardening remains niche while their competitions engage entire communities each harvest season. The knowledge sharing happens through trading seeds and discussing techniques without written documentation. The satisfaction comes from producing excellent results through skill and seeing tangible proof of expertise through massive vegetables. Woodcarving and whittling. Creating detailed wooden figurines, decorative items, and puzzle boxes represents evening hobby for many Amish men, with some achieving remarkable artistic skill despite prohibition against graven images. Why woodcarving seems contradictory connects to their rejection of decorative arts, making detailed carving appear inconsistent with plainness values. The theological line drawn permits animal figures and abstract designs, while forbidding human figures or religious imagery that might encourage idolatry. How carving becomes acceptable hobby involves creating items with practical use, like puzzle boxes for storage rather than purely decorative art. Teaching sons carving skills happens informally, with fathers sharing techniques during evening hours. Modern wood carving uses power tools, while their hand carving with pocket knives requires extraordinary patience developed through thousands of hours' practice. The creative outlet allows artistic expression within acceptable boundaries. The gift economy develops around carved items given as presents, with skilled carvers gaining reputation without selling work commercially. Breeding and showing draft horses. Raising exceptional draft horses for showing at agricultural fairs represents surprising hobby given their rejection of pride and competition, yet horse breeding remains popular. Agricultural fairs provide venues for displaying horses and competing in pulling competitions where horses demonstrate strength, with winners earning bragging rights and increased breeding fees. Why this seems contradictory connects to prohibition against prideful competition apparently violated by showing horses. The justification distinguishes between personal pride versus legitimate pride in animal breeding skill, making horse showing acceptable where personal beauty competitions would not. How this becomes major hobby involves years breeding horses for specific traits and training young horses for pulling competitions. Teaching sons horsemanship begins with basic horse care and advances to understanding genetics and conformation. Modern draft horse showing includes Amish competitors who dominate many events. The economic benefit supplements hobby enjoyment since winning horses command higher breeding fees and sell for premium prices. Complex board games and puzzles. Playing elaborate strategy board games represents unexpected evening entertainment, with families gathering for games like Dutch Blitz, Settlers of Catan, and complex jigsaw puzzles requiring hundreds of hours to complete. Settlers of Catan and complex jigsaw puzzles demonstrate appetite for mental challenge and strategic thinking despite lack of digital entertainment. Why board games surprise outsiders connects to assumptions that plain living means simple entertainment rather than complex strategy games requiring planning and skill. The game culture thrives, especially during winter evenings and Sunday afternoons when work slows, providing family entertainment that builds relationships while challenging minds. How games become central hobby involves families owning dozens of different games, hosting game nights with extended family and friends, and children learning games from a young age, developing strategic thinking. Teaching children through games develops mathematical thinking, planning skills, and good sportsmanship within the family setting before applying these qualities in a broader community. Modern board game culture exists but competes with screens, while their games provide primary evening entertainment without television or internet distractions. The competition within games allows an acceptable outlet for competitive spirits that otherwise have few approved expressions in culture, emphasizing humility and equality. The social bonding through games creates family memories and traditions, with certain games becoming associated with holidays or special occasions, and game skills passing through generations. The mental stimulation games provide keeps minds sharp and engaged, particularly important for adults whose work may become physically routine, offering intellectual challenges that daily farm work sometimes lacks. Birding and wildlife. Identifying and tracking bird species represents a serious hobby for many Amish naturalists, with detailed knowledge of migration patterns, nesting behaviors, and species identification surprising professional ornithologists. Species identification surprising professional ornithologists demonstrates observational skills developed through spending lives outdoors, noticing the natural world without electronic distractions. Why birding seems unexpected connects to assumptions about Amish being too busy with work for leisure observation of nature, yet many develop encyclopedic knowledge through decades of careful attention. The knowledge base develops through daily outdoor work, providing constant exposure to wildlife, keen observation becoming habit through years of noticing patterns, and oral tradition preserving accumulated community knowledge about local species. How this becomes a serious hobby involves keeping informal records of species sightings, discussing observations with other community members, and passing knowledge to children, teaching them to notice and identify birds. Teaching children naturalist skills begins with pointing out birds and animals during work, progressing to identification of species by sight and sound, and eventually understanding ecological relationships and seasonal patterns. Modern birding uses field guides and apps, while their identification relies on accumulated observation, experience, and knowledge passed through community without written resources. The spiritual dimension connects to appreciating God's creation through close observation, seeing divine design in nature's patterns, and finding contemplative peace through watching the natural world. The practical benefits include understanding ecological health of farms through bird populations, controlling pests through encouraging beneficial bird species, and predicting weather through bird behavior patterns traditional farmers recognize. Hunting and fishing. Pursuing game and fish for sport rather than only food represents recreational hobby many Amish men enjoy, with hunting camps, fishing trips, and sporting culture existing within communities despite emphasis on necessity over luxury. Fishing trips and sporting culture. surprise outsiders who assume Amish hunt and fish only for food rather than recreational enjoyment of outdoors and challenge. Why this seems contradictory connects to viewing the Amish as purely practical people, not engaging in sport for its own sake, yet hunting and fishing culture includes recreational elements beyond food acquisition. The justification balances recreation with practicality since game and fish still provide food, making activity productive rather than purely frivolous, allowing enjoyment while meeting practical needs simultaneously. This major hobby involves men planning hunting trips and fishing expeditions, discussing tactics and locations, and collecting equipment and developing skills beyond mere subsistence level. Teaching sons hunting and fishing begins with basic skills, but advances to sport aspects, including challenging oneself, testing skills against nature, and experiencing outdoor adventure. Modern hunting and fishing includes Amish participants who sometimes surprise game wardens with their extensive knowledge and skill developed through constant outdoor experience. The conservation ethic balances sport harvest with wildlife management, understanding sustainable take levels, and respecting seasons and limits even beyond legal requirements. The male bonding through hunting and fishing trips creates friendships and mentoring relationships with fathers and sons, uncles and nephews spending days together outdoors, strengthening family connections. The connection to heritage maintains traditions of self-sufficiency and outdoor skills that defined their ancestors' survival, keeping practical knowledge alive even when not strictly necessary for modern food security. Collecting antique tools. Acquiring and restoring old hand tools, farm equipment, and household items represents a passionate hobby for many Amish collectors who seek out superior vintage tools and traditional equipment. Farm equipment and household items from pre-industrial era provide both practical use and historical connection, with collectors appreciating craftsmanship and functionality of tools built to last generations. Why collecting seems unexpected connects to assumptions about plainness, meaning no accumulation beyond necessity, yet tool collecting thrives among those appreciating traditional craftsmanship and practical excellence. The practical justification allows collecting since tools have genuine use, maintaining traditional farming and crafts rather than being purely decorative collectibles without function. This hobby involves attending auctions and estate sales, networking to find rare tools, and sometimes traveling significant distances to acquire specific items for collections. Teaching sons to appreciate quality tools begins with learning proper tool use and care, advancing to understanding what makes superior tool design, and eventually recognizing valuable vintage tools worth acquiring. Modern antique tool collecting exists, but Amish collectors often prove most knowledgeable about traditional farm and craft tools, with their practical use experience informing collecting decisions. The restoration work required for many finds provides satisfaction of returning tools to working condition, applying metalworking and woodworking skills to repair and refinish damaged pieces. The community sharing happens through lending rare tools for specific projects, discussing finds and techniques at gatherings, and passing accumulated collections to the next generation, maintaining tool traditions. The preservation of traditional technology maintains knowledge about pre-industrial tool design and use that otherwise might disappear as older generations pass away. Singing and harmonica playing. Participating in group singing and playing harmonica represent approved musical outlets, with sacred and traditional secular songs performed at gatherings despite prohibition against most musical instruments. Traditional secular songs performed at gatherings include folk ballads, work songs, and traditional tunes passed through generations without written music or recordings. Why musical hobbies surprise outsiders connects to prohibition against most instruments and assumptions that music is purely worship-focused rather than recreational entertainment. The distinction drawn permits unaccompanied group singing and harmonica as acceptably simple instrument, while forbidding guitars, pianos, and other instruments associated with worldly entertainment. How music becomes hobby involves informal singing at social gatherings, young people's singing sessions during courtship period, and individuals practicing harmonica alone for personal enjoyment. Teaching musical skills happens through oral tradition, with children learning songs through hearing and repetition, some learning harmonica through informal instruction from relatives or friends, and developing musical ability without formal lessons or music reading. Modern musical training emphasizes instruments and reading music, while their approach preserves oral tradition and develops musical memory through constant repetition. The social bonding through group singing creates powerful community feeling, with voices joining in harmony without accompaniment, producing moving musical experiences. The emotional expression music provides offers acceptable outlet for feelings and creativity, allowing artistic expression through sound while avoiding prohibited instruments and styles. The preservation of tradition